Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ranch Remodel. We're out here. Today we're talking about some of the details in the kitchen. First detail, let's talk about cabinet doors. You notice here, we have a standard shaker style door. I didn't reinvent the door style. This one's got a square sticking, but one of the things we did look closely at when we were discussing this with the client was the size of the rail. Most of the times they're, 1.5 or 2 inches. The homeowner wanted it a little beefier. So this kitchen was built by a cabinet maker, so we could make it whatever we wanted. So we worked with him. He made a few samples for us, and we settled on this one here, which is about 2 3/4 inch. And it goes all the way around, both the rails and the stiles. But notice that on the end, in an effort to kind of accentuate this style from the rail, we actually had the cabinet maker put in some V-grooves here at the end. So that way there you get those 4 distinct parts and then that square panel. Now, the reason for the square panel and shaker, if you remember in the house, we did single panel square stuck doors everywhere for our interior doors. And one of the things that I really like and care about in these projects is that we get a nice cohesive network of details, right? So that when I look at the passageway door and then I look at the cabinet door, there's some relationship there and what they look like, what they're made out of, all of that good stuff. So moving on, where the cabinet meets the ceiling. And again, if you remember on the doors, we had a piece of 1x bar trim, and then we had a fascia board above it that was a 4-inch fascia. Well, we didn't have the room for the 4 inches here, but we did duplicate that detail. So we have that 1x bar trim, and it sticks out about 3/8 inch, and it's prominent here, and it actually returns down the side. But that ties in directly to the window details and the door details. Right? Here's that pass-through. And if you haven't seen the video where we talked about the stained glass doors, make sure you go back and you check that out, because these were absolutely beautiful. They were done by a local craftsperson. She did a wonderful job. She did a little mock-up. Joy approved it, the homeowner, and then she built these stained glass doors. This is the pass-through into the dining room. But getting back, you can see there's that bar trim with the 1x4, the simple jamb, and you can see how this is reflective of that detail. Now, one of the other things on the island here, notice that we did that repetitive V-groove here, and we did it in kind of a running bond fashion, right? So that it switches every other course, and we have the horizontal course. And that helps tie the island with a slightly different texture, but it's made out of the same fur, and so it ties it really nicely into the kitchen. A couple of other details. As we move around the kitchen, if you come down here, we have the exit door here. This takes you out to the deck and the grill space. Well, the husband wanted a little bit of cabinet for all his barbecue tools. So we had a little cabinet in there, and he gets to store everything for his barbecue in his own cabinet. One of the big problems you have in kitchens is everybody wants a TV in their kitchen, but where do you put it, right? How do you put it? There's flip down options, sometimes in a cabinet, doors slide in. Here, they didn't have a problem with it being open and fully accessible, but they wanted it to feel like the TV fit in. So they went out, they bought the TV. We did a nice surround for it. You can see the guys did a beautiful job routering out some finger grabs here. But now we have it on this articulated arm. So wherever you are in the kitchen, you can have that TV facing. And if you're cooking here and you want to pull up that YouTube video on a certain recipe, you get to watch that while things are happening. And then when it's not in use, it simply tucks away and it goes right back into its little detail there. So, a couple other things. One of my personal pet peeves are skimpy panels on ovens, on refrigerators, etc. I like to have a little bit of beef here. And notice that while these were custom made, and we could have made them anything, we made them about 75% of the rail. I didn't want to take away from the look of the kitchen cabinet doors. I wanted those to be kind of the highlight of the kitchen. But to play a supporting role, I wanted this to be strong enough that it doesn't compete, but it feels like it belongs. And it's not this little skimpy 3/4 inch piece there. One of the other, if you want to come around here, one of the other things that's a big issue for me is when you have big islands like this, and remember this one's about a little over 10 feet by 4 feet. If I put doors here, I'm constantly bending down and looking in and trying to find, and you can have roll-out trays, but I like to think of the kitchen island as kind of the dresser drawers of the kitchen, right? So you can see here, we have 3 banks of drawers. The top one is the narrower one for utensils, linens, all that kind of stuff. And then you have those deeper ones down below. These are on full extension glides, so they come all the way out and you get to load it up. But there's no bending under. Everything is accessed from the top, right? If you look over my shoulder, just like the refrigerator, we got those nice thick rails here. In a couple places, notice that we've added some glass doors. We used the same rain glass that we used on our interior passage doors where we went with the glass panel. Lastly, let's jump into the pantry. A couple little details in there that we can talk about. So, coming into the pantry, the first thing above the ovens, because it's always a deep cabinet, this is a great place to put baker trays and just stack them in on their side. They're out of the way. It's a nice deep cabinet, nice, easy to access, etc. Works out really good. For this particular homeowner, he has a bunch of oversized pots and pans that he uses to boil lobsters and do some of his cooking. And so he wanted a couple really deep drawers. So we have these that are over a foot deep. So he can put his big pans in there, and we measured all his pans to make sure that we had drawers to accommodate it. We have that nice tilt turn window here in the pantry. And the last thing is, again, we have those glass doors. We have 3 of them here in the pantry. But the thing that I wanted to point out when it comes to the doors, notice the light cut. So we have this kind of 60-40 split on the glass, with it being taller on the bottom than on the top there. And that's intentional. Why? Well, if you look at the window here, we see that same kind of 60-40 split. Remember earlier I talked about it's really nice when you walk through a project and there's a lot of subtle details that actually add, cohesively to the overall success of the project. And it's little things like this that get knitted together that as you move through the project, you might not realize every little detail and its contribution to the success, but there is this kind of feel good as I walk around the project that everything belongs together. Anyways, let's jump back to the studio. We'll break out Big Red. We'll ask him for some help, and we'll look at some of these details through the eyes of Big Red. We'll see you back at the studio.
All right, everybody. So, we got to go back out to the ranch remodel kitchen. I know last time we talked about planning the kitchen, but this one here was specifically talking about some of those details. We're going to dive in a little deeper. I broke out some of the kitchen elevations. We'll give it some thoughts. We'll think about it. We'll dive in. Guess who's going to join us? Of course, Big Red wouldn't miss the opportunity to chime in and highlight some of our thoughts. So without further ado, let's dive in. We have a couple of the kitchen elevations I thought were good drawings to discuss here. Typically we like to at least do an initial layout of the kitchen. All depends on who's designing it. In this case here, I did the kitchen design and then worked with the cabinet maker to pull together some of the final details there. So, but you can see we usually lay out every cabinet, every spacer, what kind of fridge we're putting in, any of those details that we talked about in the video, like, you know, the spice pull-out tray behind here, anywhere where we have adjustable shelving. In this case here, we have a couple roll-out trays here, so those can pull out and get really good access. We have our induction cooktop with our vent hood that directs directly to the outside. Over here, you saw the cabinet there. We had a really small discussion about putting the TV in that cabinetry. And then a couple more roll-out trays. And then this one here is the Le Mans tray. So those actually swivel out, and that tray comes out into the kitchen there. So you get full access into that blind corner of the kitchen there. So coming down here, this is the wall that marries up this wall with that wall. So it's basically perpendicular to that. This is where we have the kitchen sink here. You can see the faucet. You have that nice big window. It's a 3-piece window. So one of the details that I like to do is to do a picture window at the sink. That way there you don't get any of the hardware or the window operation messing with the faucet, right? So many times you have what I call the knuckle busting scenario where you're trying to operate the operable window there behind a tall faucet, and homeowners don't pick anything, you know, low profile. No, this thing's this nice big tower that comes screaming out of the countertop. So I like to get that picture window in, and then I reserve the side here, and we complemented those with a few little mutton bars, but these are the actual tilt turn windows here, and the operable windows on the side. So you always get that nice picture, clear glass picture there. So sink cabinet in the middle, dishwasher on the right here. Some homeowners left, right. It was really interesting little anecdotal story. I was always in the habit of putting them on the left, and then some homeowners would agree to it. Some would say, hey, can you move that over to the right? But it's because I'm left-handed. I want to stand at the sink, use my left hand to load the dishwasher, so I naturally would always put it on the left-hand side. But in this case, it's on the right-hand side. We have a trash cabinet here that typically those hold two, I don't know what they are, 15 gallon baskets, a couple of them. So one for recycling, one for trash. Here's that door out to the back side or back deck. We have our grilling cabinet here with all the grilling tools. And you notice, you know, again, we call out all the cabinets. We call out the fact that these are all Doug fir. You know, just trying to get all this information on the paper so that these details don't get overlooked, don't get missed. Things like under cabinet lighting. So just to make sure that, you know, why would a cabinet maker need to understand that there's under cabinet lighting there? Well, he has to provide that little lip that when we put the lighting under there, we don't see it, right? So he builds down that bottom of the cabinet, kind of creates a little pocket for us so that we can install that under cabinet lighting. So even though he's not installing the lighting, it's just really important that he has that information. And as the architect, it's our job to kind of do all that cross-referencing between electrician, cabinet maker, etc., tile guy, counter guy. They're all here, appliance person. You know, our job to put it all together. Speaking of putting it all together, you know, if you watch the past videos, the detail there is such that we have a cap piece that sits above the door like that. And then we have the jamb comes down, and then the door is inside here, right? But we have that nice little kind of craftsman-like ledge here that is positive, and then we have that just little head casing there that's the same dimension as the jamb casing. So those are the same. This just looks a little bigger because it gets that extra 3/4 of an inch, and we get that little bit of an overhang here, and it pops out. Well, to kind of create this cohesive momentum in the house, the house here, the residence, I took that and applied that same detail to the top of the cabinets. I just applied it at a smaller scale. So at the top of the cabinets, you basically have your cabinet door. Cabinet door sits up against your cabinet frame, and then that goes back. But on that cabinet frame, we have that little piece that protrudes out, and then we have the piece that goes up, and this gets scribed to the ceiling. So we get that same detail, and we get that nice cohesive nature that I look for in my projects to tie that all together. So it makes it feel like the kitchen doors and windows belong to the kitchen, and the kitchen belongs to the interior trim package, that there's a communication and vocabulary there that ties it all together really, really nicely. So anyways, just a few of those details. This door here, as you can see, we noted that one is glass, so that the gentleman making the doors knows that we have a glass panel there versus no glass panel. Again, just trying to get everybody that's involved kind of at the same level of knowledge, so that in the end, we put this kitchen in a position for success. So anyways, that's it from the studio. So hopefully you enjoyed looking at a few of those details. All right. Well, that's a wrap pretty much on the kitchen, and it's pretty much a wrap on this video. So hopefully you enjoyed it. This kitchen was a lot of fun. The whole project overall was fun. It took on a slightly different flavor, this project, because not only did I get to do, say, the kitchen or the master walk-in closet, but somehow I had to tie those all in together so that when you walk through the house, it feels like a nice cohesive unit. So go check out some of those previous videos on the house. There's a lot of it. I've been filming out there for a little over a year, from the barrel vaulted ceilings to the flat ceiling out in the sunroom, which is one of my favorites, to the windows we used out there. Just a whole lot of good stuff. The walk-in closet design, it's all there. It's all there, and it's free. And when you're done watching my stuff 7 times, I suggest you go check out Matt, Wade, Brent, and Jake. They're all putting up really good stuff. It's all up-to-date stuff that we're doing right now. It's not necessarily stuff we did a while back. These are decisions we're making as we go through our businesses. So anyways, check that out. If you're looking for more, find me on Instagram, Steve Basic Architect, posting stuff up there regularly, trying to help the industry. We're all trying to get to the next level. So help each other out there. So check that out. Steve Basic Architect on Instagram. Check out my daughter, Alexandra Basic, on Instagram. She works with me, and she's doing some really great stuff. Her renderings are absolutely incredible. You got to check them out. So go give us a follow and try and keep up. And if you want more, there is more. Unbuild It podcast every other week. I team up with my good buddies Jake and Peter, and we talk something about building. Most of the time, it's those two guys poking fun at me, trying to make me into the victim. I just won't let it happen, so I push back a little. But anyways, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of laughs, but most importantly, we transfer a lot of information, and we have some great discussions. A lot of times it's with guests, so go check that out. And so that's a wrap. Pretty much kitchen out at the Ranch Remodel is pretty much done. So until next time, Long live our buildings.